This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Right Path podcast, where the truth still matters and words still have power. This is the place for authors who know that every page is a step forward towards finding your right path. And in that vein, this is the podcast that is for authors, it is about authors, and it's done by an author. Folks, this is where we share our journeys, we explore our creativity, and we examine the why behind it all. Our guest today is here to do just that. I'm excited to have this gentleman on here. He is an accomplished author of several books, most recently, The Stained Glass Mustang, which we're going to hear all about today, including his story. Please welcome to the show, Tim Bryant. Tim, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
All right. I'm glad you're here. I'll tell you what, I've had a chance to look into the book a little bit and, kind of read your bio. You have one heck of a story. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna throw it to you a little and say, hey, why don't we start with just tell everybody a little bit about who is Tim? And what are you about?
I am the end result of a lot of hard knocks, I think. um, I used to work in arts administration, and then I went into ad agency work and whatnot. And I've lived a lot of different places. I'm in South Carolina now. I've always kind of thought of myself as a South Carolinian, having done my grade school years here and traveling around. I just always felt drawn to come back to the South, and so I did. And I am now living out in the country, which is a little bit different for me, being mainly a city boy. For instance, when the power goes out, you don't have water. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but I started writing when I was a kid, just because we were in I was in a big household, and it was just a nice escape from the chaos of a big family. I could kind of crawl off to my own little space and think about things. It gave me a sense of freedom, uh, and it kind of did the same thing that sailing did for me. I started that at about the same age, and so I never really took writing that seriously, though. My writings were always just sort of what I describe as like doodling with words, and kind of cartooning or whatever. Even in my young adult life, as I began writing in the early mornings before I went into work, it was mainly an exercise to make sure I was awake and ready to face my bosses or my clients or whatever might come my way. And it kind of went on like that. I made it a practice to set aside the first hour when I could every day, just to write something over a cup of coffee and wake up. And all that stuff was tossed into boxes from the liquor store and shoved into a closet. It wasn't really until it was about 2009 or so. I just moved into this house out here. And this is an actual beach house built up on stilts, 11 feet off the ground, in a
Wow.
cow pasture. It's kind of like if you ever heard of Christo, the environmental artist. It's
Okay.
kind of like that in my own strange way. And so I moved out to the country, and it was just totally wrong for me. It was just the initial getting used to being out here. I didn't share any interest with other people. I wasn't a big bass fisherman or deer hunter or whatever. My wife later explained to me that people out here didn't really have time, the luxury of time, to write. They were too busy trying to survive. And so I just never
Hmm.
really found that many connections. And at about the same time, I'd sold my big sailboat, and I missed the water. And so I was down in the little pond. It's about a 40-acre pond behind our house through the woods. And I was floating around on a swim noodle, and I kept seeing these little squiggly things out of the corner of my eyes. Well, they were water moccasins, I found out later. And so that was like, that was another shock. And that led me to buying a $200 rubber kiddie pool from Big Lots, the ones that look like the blue mushroom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, oh, my wife, she freaked. But I put it out in the yard and I climbed into that thing and practically stayed a whole summer in it. I mean, I floated around. I had actually, someone's got a picture of me floating around in that thing in a beach lounger with a big blue cup balanced on my forehead, and I am just out. I'm going to say was taking a nap, but
Let's go with that.
yeah, let's go with that. And so that began just a whole lot of things happening there. A series of losses during the time that I was getting used to my new surroundings and the new culture, which now I love. Um, that led to me every day writing what was sort of like a blog. It was mainly for my own fun and my own kind of trying to explore where I was at that moment in life. What is all this stuff that I'm dealing with and struggling with. And so I set that aside for a while. And then I had the big wreck, a major wreck that resulted in an acetabular fracture, which was basically my femur being shoved through my hip socket to enough to come out the back. The surgeon said it was like a finger going through a saltine cracker, and ended up in a wheelchair for a while and had nothing to do but write. And so I went back to those series of blogs and kind of stripped out, some pieces of it and put it together into a book called Blue Rubber Pool. And it's all about that summer in that pool. Now, it was published, but as it was being published, the publisher was losing her eyesight. It's just like one more, one more landmark in the path of my life.
What in the world, man? Okay.
I didn't know what I was doing, and so the book was just chock full of typos and just screw ups and stuff. And so I took it back, and I've got it. It's still for sale if everybody wants to see what a really rough, just crazy, insane writing of a guy going through what I call the mother of all midlife meltdowns. That's the Blue Rubber Pool book.
Wow.
But about that time, because I was stuck in a chair and I was in the house and I was reaching out to people over the internet, I met some other writers, and they encouraged me to keep going. And what else could I do? Right. So while I was going through that solitary phase of my recovery, getting up, being able to walk again, and it was a while. Out of a wheelchair into a walker. I still use a cane sometimes, but anyway, everybody encouraged me to keep going, and I had a story in mind. And so that was my second novel, and it was called The Bird in Your Heart, a Carolina Sea Island story. And it's another story of midlife confusion. It's about a guy who he's married to the boss's daughter. He divorces her, loses his job, and moves back to a little island off the coast of South Carolina, right near Charleston, and it's called Edisto. And it's about he goes back to the house where he grew up, the old family house, been there for generations. His plan is to buy a sailboat, take off, but his mother is going blind. And I took that from my publisher.
I saw that connection.
Yeah, there's a connection and everything in this. But anyway, she's going blind, and their big old house needs these extensive repairs. And so he's torn between taking off or doing what he needs to do for the family. He's an only child. And, when he goes into that house, he sees all the portraits of his ancestors frowning at him, like, you better do the right thing. So it's a story of that, and it's set on a little island, which has island life is very different, from mainland life. And the low country of South Carolina is very unique culturally. There's just a lot of history and flavors and natural beauty down there. It's just incredible. And so I was able to pull all those together into that book. And so that just led to then the next one, the stained glass Mustang, which just came out a few weeks ago
Oh,
through unsolicited press. And that's another story of the same thing. Only in this story, he is a advertising executive who drove drunk, um, killed a little girl, lost everything, his family, his job, his friends, his reputation. And so he's starting over living on a sailboat on the Cooper River, having kept the sailboat previously on the Ashley. And if you know Charleston, Ashley's where you want to be. On the Cooper, he's next to a shipyard. So it's just another fun story. It's based on what I think really makes that one unique is that he has one client. The client has him over a barrel, and and the guy is stuck. He's depending on this guy. He's an internet scammer, but he needs that guy to survive, to pay a slip fee, to have a can of sardines or whatever on the boat. And then he inherits this car. It's a vintage Mustang convertible, and when he goes to pick it up, it is covered bumper to bumper in scenes from the life of Christ. All these famous paintings. And so he brings it back to the Charleston area and rolls up to see his boss, as his only client. And his client thinks, "You are a genius. You're going to whitewash my reputation." And so the guy just kind of like says, "I'm going to have to go with this." And so he's using this car. He takes the car out to these hokey little country racetracks and just stands by it and hands out refrigerator magnets. And while the client sells his junk out of the flea market or out of the back of the truck or whatever. And then he meets a woman. She's a Hispanic woman, very vivacious, single mom who's also a jewelry artist. And she looks at the car and she says, "Doing what you're doing is a sin against God." And he's starting to have an attraction to her. And so now he's in this wedge
uh,
between the client and the girl. It's just kind of a fun story, how different people from all different walks of life react to what's on that car. In that sense, it has a little bit of maybe magical realism, to it, as if the car maybe does have some special mojo.
hmm.
Little kids just can't stay away from it, because their little minds are just so pure. Other people look at it and they argue over, what year is it? Is it 2-cylinder or 4-cylinder, or whatever. Um, and so that's the stained glass Mustang. That's where I am right now, and I have another one in the works. But um, that's my world as a writer. It's very solitary out here. Um, Country life. I sometimes open the door and there's deer standing everywhere out there. There's turkeys, and it's pretty laid back.
Sounds like you've embraced the country life. I mean, fully after sort of being like, I don't know about this.
I
Have you come
fought
around?
I fought it. I fought it hand in fist. I hated
Yeah.
it. But I really have now. I don't think I could go back. I mean, I enjoy going back to cities. I mean, I used to live in places where you just step out your front door, a whole bunch of old brownstones, and walk a block and then around the corner and there's a great bar, or, the other way is another place you like, or whatever, a big park or something. I'm very much used to that, or was. But now it is so quiet out here, and it's just so peaceful. Like when I see the breezes blowing through the pasture out, I'm up on the third floor of my beach house, and this is my writing space. There's like a little balcony out here, like 2 or 3 people could stand on it, and I call that the crow's nest. But I'll open that up sometime, and the yard will just be loaded with deer or with turkeys, or sometimes when the breeze is blowing just right, the grasses in that pasture, that it looks just like the sea. It's crazy. And when you hear the wind approaching you from miles away, I mean, literally miles away, and it's approaching you through the treetops and stuff, it sounds like the sea. And so kind of becoming tuned into that, it relaxed me. It kind of brought me into it. At one point, I had an old Jaguar. Nothing. It was like a sedan. It wasn't anything special, but it was a smooth ride, and it was cool, you know. Um, but the cows got out, and I've got a picture of me herding cows in that Jaguar going through the field trying to get these cows. You know, the farm Jeep wouldn't start, so I'm out there bouncing around in this old. I mean, I've left into the whole deal out here. It's just so much fun.
So fully embraced is an understatement. If you're
Yes,
herding
yeah.
cows in a
Become a
a
zealot.
jag.
I'm talked about now. Crazy
That's
guy.
that's awesome. I love the crow's nest thing too. I mean, that's got to just be absolutely gorgeous.
It's really nice, and at night you just stand out there and you can hear the geese down in the pond. You know, they squabble and get into these big fights, and then when the train goes through a few miles from here, the coyotes that live down there just go insane. So all the city sounds are now these sounds, and kind of now that I know what they are, and I've gotten used to it, you know, I'm good. When I would be out on my sailboat sometimes, especially when I um, would sit down and try to write on the sailboat out in the water, and I'd hear these weird squeaks and these weird groans and these weird, it's just such a distraction. And then I got used to it. The total quiet was a problem at first, and then all these weird noises, and then I got, once you kind of take all those in and acclimate yourself to them, and now it's a great place for writing. I'm not writing I'm not working on my last or fourth novel right now because I'm working on getting the stained glass Mustang up on its legs, um, but I'm waiting until fall and winter. That's my usual time for writing here because I am inside a lot.
Yeah.
In the summers, I like to read. I go down. I have a hot tub for my injury, and I go out and get in the hot tub with a book, and I've got a hammock on the second floor on a screen porch. I sit out there, and summer and spring and summer are my reading times. Fall and winter are my writing times.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you unpacked a lot, and I love that. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. The the faith aspect of the book, when you're sitting there talking about, the
Yes.
Christ scenes, in the car and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence that
No.
happens after this huge accident?
Well, uh, I have been questioning. I have been wondering about faith all my life.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, I was probably like a lot of young guys my age that might have been a little bit rambunctious or whatever, and their dad had to box them in the ears or whatever to get them to go to church. And
Right.
something about that just didn't seem right. And so I resisted it. And do you remember the scene from Forrest Gump where he's up in the mast? Lieutenant Dan is up in the mast during the storm and he's waving his fist at God. Well,
Oh
when I
yeah.
was about 21, I was up in a construction cane at night during a lightning storm. And I was waving my fist at God, and
Yeah.
and I was mad at God for a very long time, and then I suddenly became a single dad for a little while, and that sort of humbled me.
Uh,
Uh, and then I met this incredible woman who became their mother, and her middle name is Hope, and she totally changed me. Uh, she she at least got me to begin seeing things around me, feeling things maybe that I hadn't felt, and some of it was very, I don't know. You might think it kind of cold when you think about faith or Christianity, but the first things that really got me to hold on was, are you familiar with the Fibonacci sequence or the
mhm.
Fibonacci math?
Absolutely.
That the idea that this mathematical sequence repeats itself so many places, and I'm thinking that just, I don't know, can that really be random? I don't know. And then I began thinking that can't be random. And then I began going to church, but it was a small country church, and that didn't go well because I was reading, well, I forget what they're called, but the things where the whole congregation reads together
Yep.
from
Absolutely.
the book, hymnal book, I think. Um, I didn't have my readers with me, and it said goats. I read gnats. Instead of the whatever they were doing with the goats, they were doing it with gnats. GNATS. It's like, and nobody looked at me or anything. And then another thing that happened was our preacher he was a former logging truck driver who got the calling. Very nice guy.
Hmm.
But he gave a sermon one time on be careful what you wish for. But it was about the slaves. And that just hit me wrong. Like he was kind of saying, oh, maybe they wouldn't have wished for freedom if they knew what it was like out there. And I was like, are you insane? And so that kind
Wow.
of pushed, yeah, yeah. So that pushed me back out a little bit. But then, after the wreck, I did have so much time to start thinking about things, and I started, not reading the Bible, but reading sort of like the Bible for dummies, kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and and listening to some TV ministers, and then I had this little rescue pup who had to be outside every morning at 5 o'clock. And so every morning at 5 o'clock, while I'm walking this dog, big property out here, I was walking him along, and I would always be drawn to looking up into the heavens. And then I began drawn, especially as had finished the Bird in Your Heart book, and was thinking about the stained glass Mustang story. I actually started talking to God. This is going to sound weird. I mean, I don't have any tinfoil, but
Nothing's going to sound weird on this podcast.
but I truly did. One thing my wife always has said is that to get closer to God, you have to talk to God, and more importantly, you have to listen.
Yeah.
And so my walks in the morning became, questions first, like, beginning with why am I out here, kind of thing. Is this really where I'm meant to be forever? And, and then I started feeling more peaceful about it and stuff like that. Well, then I started asking about the stained glass Mustang story because I had the concept, but, it's kind of weird. I didn't know how some Christians might react to it. There's some things in the story that very conservative Christians might not like. And I don't want to say what that is yet, but it has to
Sure.
do with, yeah. So anyway, and so I just really listened on it, and every day, not every day would I ask, but I'd ask about a lot of things in those different walks. But then about every month or so many weeks, I'd go, "Are you really sure about this?" And it wasn't like I got a voice said, "Tim, do it." It wasn't like that at all. But it was just this sense of peace or something about trying to write it, and I enjoyed writing it. It was a lot of fun to write, even though it is kind of a dark story at times. And I'm glad it's done, and I'm kind of waiting for what is the reaction going to be. I mean, some news releases have gone out to some Christian news writers and some Christian podcasts and things, so the books are going out to those people, and I don't know what the reaction is going to be. I have had a minister in North Carolina actually thank me for writing it, and so that was kind of like,
Okay.
we could send the rest of those news releases out, And so I'm still kind of, I really am waiting for the other foot to drop. It's gotten very good reviews so far on Goodreads, and those are all advanced reader copy reviews.
Right.
And now that the book is up, they're starting to come in on Amazon and other places. It's available all over the place. I mean, Barnes and Noble and Walmart online.
Right.
And we're trying to get them into the stores. I'm right now focusing on getting it into the stores down in the coast because it's set there. But yeah, that's the faith. It really was a journey of faith for me. Now, I still, like, just yesterday. I was out. I can ride a bike now. I have to, it has to be an e-bike because I have to have that power assist for my injury or whatever. But I was
Right.
just out pedaling around in the countryside out here, trying to not get creamed by a logging truck. And I was saying, God, I, you were telling me to do this, right? I mean, or did I just hear that, or did I just want to hear that? And so I made it true. So I don't know, Roy. It's I don't know what's
All
gonna.
right. I mean, I think I asked the right question, but
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
glad that I
yeah,
did. You know, writing so often can just be therapeutic. It can be our own personal journey.
yeah.
Um, from the beginning of writing this book to the end of writing this book to where you are today, has that impacted your feeling about this, your understanding of it, maybe how you feel about, your faith and your connection and that
It
type of thing?
well, it because the way that different people do react to that car and its paintings, and due to the character, the main character protagonist being caught in the middle between basically good and bad, the his evil client wants him to exploit this car for selfish and actually evil purposes, and this guy, he knows better. He knows better than that. And yet, and the other thing too, just as a backstory, he always really wanted to be a painter, and his dad kind of drove him into, it's kind of like don't quit your day job kind of thing. His dad kind of said get a day job first, and
Uh,
that's how he ended up. He was actually an advertising executive, and he ended up not being a graphic designer but an account supervisor, and a very good one at bringing in new businesses and new clients and that sort of thing. um, and so it was kind of neat feeling him go from sort of a cynical, kind of full of himself, egotistical guy in the beginning, to being somebody completely different in the end. And what got him there was this car, not just its impact on him sort of being dependent on it, for his survival, but, and being caught in the middle between these two forces, but also in him seeing how other people, responded to it. And there's just a lot of other sort of subplots and things that weigh in on what this car means, and a lot of
nice.
very complex kind of things related to his relationship with his father, who he was estranged from, and that's from whom he got the car, and just
Gotcha.
a whole bunch of stuff. So it really did. It's kind of, now that it's written though, um, when I go out with the dog in the morning, like I said, I'm not sure that I'm confident that I wrote it, but I feel glad that I wrote it, because for me, the process of it, I mean, I had the general kernel of the idea, and I had the setting. And beyond that, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. And I'm not one of those writers who plots out, a book very far. I mean, I'll have a general idea. I try and get it up on its legs as fast as I can, in that first chapter or whatever. And then if I feel like I need to, I might sit down and come up with a few main, kind of benchmarks for it. Kind of like writing a screenplay,
Hmm.
where you have the
Yeah.
turning point and all that stuff. Um, I'll do that. And so um, I don't know. I felt like I felt like I was growing as I wrote it. And other people who have read it said it really gave them a sense of joy. A recent reviewer said that it describes love in all its various forms of love, including self love. And that's self love. You got to have some self love, you know,
Yeah.
to exist in this world, as far to be spiritually where you want to be, to, I think, to have a relationship with Christ. I mean, Christ will build that for you, but you've got to have I think, a certain sort of a certain balance or stability in your spiritual self, to even open your mind and your
Yeah.
heart to Christ and the influence of that.
Wow. That's powerful stuff. That's a great review.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
I'll take that into the week.
He
I
said
mean,
it should
man.
be a movie, and I'm like, bring it on.
Oh, time to call Netflix, man. Here we go. All right.
Yeah, I'm
Oh
counting on
man.
you for that, Rory. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. No, it's all
Yeah,
right. I love it. I really
yeah,
do. You mentioned process, and I
yeah.
mean, with the move, of course, from where you were out to the country and getting acclimated and all that. Then there's the water moccasins in the water. Then there's the gigantic injury and that life-altering thing. How has your process evolved, from the first book to where you are now through necessity and preference both?
Well, the writing process, first of all, in my earlier days before I started writing novels, I I would write like little essays or little poems or whatever, um, and I would just jot them down, and then I may, if I had time left, go back and try and perfect them. And I carried that process over to writing the blogs that came out of the Blue Rubber Pool and then went into the Blue Rubber Pool, the book. Um, I when I wrote those, I would say I'm going to write for at least a good hour and see how many words. I mean, I'm not going to worry about word count. I'm just going to write, and and a lot of it was just kind of unloading things about being that stage of my life, I guess you could say. And but I really didn't worry about going back and trying to polish anything. I just left it like it was. And then when the time came to pull them together, I went through and I did clean them up, and string them together. But that first book taught me a lot about continuity, about what I did, about what not to do in trying to bring in, too many background characters, too many background. I mean, that book, it flips everywhere. It's set in a Blue Rubber Pool in the country, but it goes into flashbacks. It goes into real things that might really be happening as if he might have gotten out of the pool. It goes into things that might be dreams. I mean, it bounces all over, and it's way too much. I mean, I tell people, don't read that book unless you don't mind getting lost, because you will get lost in that book. It's very abstract. I mean, one guy said, Tim, if we put the right 20 people together, they'd know where that whole book came from. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I hope we never get those 20 people together. I don't want anybody to know where it came from. Um, but then the process, when I put that together into a novel and said, you know what, I think I could write a novel. Then it becomes, well, how do you write a novel? And out here, there's no writing groups out here. And even if there were at that moment in time, I couldn't get to them. I mean, I couldn't, I was stuck at the house, in a wheelchair, on a walker, or whatever. And so I did kind of, try to try and teach myself a little bit. Just, I like to read novels, and that helped.
Mhm.
And I went back to some of the novels that I used to like when I was young, and kind of thought about what did I like about those novels. And then as far as the process goes, I would start with just the kernel of an idea. I mean, for the stained glass Mustang, a guy who's over the barrel, hitting the bottom, and he's over the barrel by a bad guy, inherits a car that's covered bumper to bumper with scenes from the life of Christ. I mean, that was it. And it's kind of like they said that Star Trek, the one sentence pitch for Star Trek was wagon train in space. It's you ever hear that?
I've not heard that, and I'm a Trekkie. I haven't heard that before. Oh my gosh,
I
but
read
that's
it
really
long.
accurate.
Yeah, it's one of the, a long time ago. I read a book about screenwriting, and that helped me too, because as I mentioned before, screenwriting has a certain format to it where certain things need to happen by.
Mhm.
And like there's the opening, and then there's the turning point, and then there's the resolution towards the end, and whatever. And so the pacing of it has to. I mean, that was my basic framework for pacing. Was, if I was going to write this as a screenplay, what would be the basic turning points and resolution point? How far into it do these different things need to happen? And that helped. um, so that got me through sort of the structure of getting a book, getting a story started, and developing characters and bringing in. Because I am a Southern spirited writer, maybe I love the South as for the sense of place that it gives me. Um, Southern stories tend to really kind of be rooted in and reflect their surroundings, the natural beauty, the culture, the quirks of the people, um, and so I knew that I wanted to incorporate those in. And so that was sort of my next step. I mean, the next novel, the Bird in Your Heart book, kind of, I think it did well. I was happy with how that one worked out, and other people, have been too. Um, but I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, there's and then you get into the grammar and the, don't use the same word over and over too many times, like just. Well, it's just 1 mile down the road, these kind of waste words, things like that, that in the writing process, if you go through and go through with, I keep a little list of what those words are. And so now I go through and I just knock them out, as I go.
Hmm.
But it still is sort of a fly by the seat of your pants process. I mean, when I get through the first chapter or maybe the third chapter, and I'm starting to bring in other characters, I might write maybe, I don't know, a bullet point about each character. Where I know other writers, they write pages and pages, a lot of
Oh
Freudian
yeah.
stuff. How do you get along with his mother? And, this weird stuff. Um, and they do the same thing with writing. Like I know this one person who I met her before the wreck, and she was writing a book, and she still hasn't finished it, but it's like 500 pages of notes. And it's like, what are you doing? You're killing yourself. Enjoy the process of, the creative process of writing,
Yeah.
and let that, put some crayons on the table and see what happens. um, and I remember, there's a saying, I think it's from the Middle East somewhere, maybe India, I don't know, that goes, the easiest way to sculpt an elephant, like to create a sculpture of an elephant, is to chip away anything that doesn't look like an elephant. And it's kind of like, duh, but whoa. Okay. And that's part of it too. I mean, a lot of, you have to self-check yourself, you have to
Yeah.
self-check as you go through your work and go, does that really bring anything to it? Is that really necessary? And I think I've gotten a lot better in the second and the third, on that. And then the fourth one I'm working on, it's totally for, and I think it's going to be my last, because I need to get I need to get outside more. I can't sit here the rest of my life, but it's totally for me. It's all about experimental things like nested fiction, a story within a story, a book within a book.
Hmm.
I want to try that just to see if I can pull it off. A lot of people, some of my writers friends that I've kind of pulled together, over the last few years, they're all, Tim, that is a stupid idea. And I'm like, I know, and it's not easy, is it? But it's
I
been,
know. Here we go.
yeah. There's other people who have done it. Margaret Atwood, and now I can't remember which of her books, but she did it very effectively.
Nice.
Um, Different, it can be done. Can I do it? I have no idea, but I want to bring in a little bit more magical surrealism into it. It's based in an old hotel that I used to live on Jacksonville Beach when I was very young. And I was told that Charlie Chaplin lived, or not lived, but stayed in the rooms that I had. The old place was built in like 1925 or something. The Windsors were there. The mob was there in the 30s and whatever. And so there's just all this great, vibe about the place. And so I'm kind of trying to pull that into a novel that also has a novel within the novel. Now, if you
Interesting.
never hear from me again,
You didn't make it.
I didn't
you,
make
you
it.
did not make it. I gotcha. We'll go
Yeah,
back to this interview as evidence. I'll be like, this was his plan. I don't know what
yeah,
to tell
yeah,
you.
yeah. It was a face plant.
I haven't heard from the guy. So,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Oh my goodness gracious. I love that you're willing to try that though. I mean, that's like, hey, let's give it a shot. I mean, that's kind of fearless.
Well,
A lot
isn't
of
there?
people are worried. They're like,
Is it?
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
what if I fail, right?
I mean, again, I am so uninformed about writing. I mean, I've learned a lot since, and publishing since, and marketing to some degree since. But um, I didn't even know what genre I wrote in. I mean, I knew it wasn't mystery, it wasn't romance, it wasn't chick lit, whatever. But I'm told it's literary fiction, and that you have a lot more leeway or whatever to, you know, to go places with it. Like my books, they start off like a very like baseball, a very very long pitch, a long wind up rather before the pitch. I mean, it's not like a mystery that goes, the body was laying on the floor with blood gushing out of its neck. It's not like that. And as a Southern kind of thing, there's a lot of effort put into developing a sense of place. So then the character can, be related to the place and be built, to reflect that place. Um, so anyway, I really am. I'm just truly winging this. And where I was going with that though is that I think what mistake some people make is that they, you know, literary fiction is not a top selling, category. In fact, it's the I think the smallest selling. Not talking about the classics, but new stuff coming out. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of writing for what they think will be money or income out of that effort. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people have been very successful at it. But I knew for me, it wasn't about that. It was about what you were talking about, the very, the therapeutic aspect of it,
Yeah.
and the self-examination, and the, getting to find a little peace with my own spirit inside my own skin, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to write mysteries or romantic comedies or whatever. I'm just doing this. I told somebody that I equate what I'm doing in this writing as kind of like a graffiti artist, looking at a bridge overpass or a train car and going, I need to put something there that says something about it. It says, I was here and this is what I felt about it. And so my my novels are graffiti. And so somebody asked me a while back, what is something about you that nobody else, that no one else knows? And it's that I'm a Neanderthal. I'm a caveman. I'm drawing on the cave. I saw bisons.
Guy's written all these books, so he thinks this is a Neanderthal. Okay, man, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. I love that though. I mean, one of the things I love about the whole story is that you're not trying to be anything that you're not. You're just, this is me. I'm putting myself out there. Here it is. Here's the book. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that really, really helps, to get it out there and to connect with readers.
And when you're talking about advice for, one thing I would say to other writers is that, ego is is a really scary thing in any of the arts, I think. And there's some wonderful artists who have had just crazy egos, But I think when you're starting out in life and you're like, say you're trying to get your first novel or whatever published, you are going to be hit by so many offers from people who want to help you with your novel, and they're going to put all kinds of numbers in front of you. And my big concern about that is there are so many people who, they're either the younger people who are starting out or the older people who are like, they've finally got a chance to sit down and do this, and they don't realize that there's not a whole lot of money in it, And so if you start if you're willing to put a whole lot of money into something that isn't going to uh, offer a return on that investment, then are you really doing it for the right reason? I'm kind of thinking people who are willing to spend that kind of money for all these different programs that are out there, it's almost like they're the coal miners going up, you know, into the Klondike, and they're not going to make any money. The guys selling them the panning, the pans and the,
Selling the shovels.
shovels,
Yeah.
and, oh yeah, yeah, the jeans, those are the guys who are going to walk away with money. And so I
Yeah.
cringe. I mean, now that I am starting to get my name out there a little bit better. I am still hit with all these things, and it's very hard to separate, you know, who are the weasels. And well, it's not so hard, really, because you figure most of them are. And, and that's just it. There's a lot of weasels out there just waiting like carnies to snatch the money out of your hand. And so I would be very careful with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with attending. I mean, I wish that I could have attended some workshops and things like that. But I should have spent some money there. But on all the things related to, pitching your book to publishers or there's a lot of hybrid publishers now.
Yeah.
And I know a guy spent $10,000 to publish his book, and he probably hasn't made five out of it in 3 years.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
and it's just crazy. Now you'll have a book, and you leave something of yourself behind, but for $10,000, you could get a pretty nice, granite statue, somewhere in the, in the memory garden or whatever those are, memorial garden.
Right.
No, it's so many people that come at you, and it's kind of the same with in the music business. A lot of people who are young, and they get together, they're playing in bars, they're starting to get out there more, and all of a sudden they're hit with all these, hey, we want to do an album for you. It's just going to cost you, $6,000. You know what I mean? It's just, you got to be careful out in the world.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's a ton of that. I mean, you're right. And I've seen it for writers, all over the place,
Yeah,
So I think it's one of those don't let a skinny guy teach or a fat guy teach you how to get skinny, type
that's
of thing.
exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
So if they haven't written,
Yeah,
and they haven't at least put a book out of their own that was successful, it's kind of like,
right,
what are
right.
you telling me right now?
Yeah. And the other thing with that is that a contract is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, you really, long time ago in arts administration, I used to book different bands and stuff for art festivals. And we were going to pay what was called an honorarium. It was not their going fee. It was just if they had a date, like maybe in Orlando and nothing else going until they were down in Miami, if we caught them at the right time, say, hey, can we book you for this event? You got an opening, but we're only going to pay $10,000, or maybe not even that. And they would send us these contracts, and it was, like you hear about the brown M&Ms and all that kind of stuff, what wattage bulbs had to be around the mirrors and what foods, a lot of them would send their own menus, depending on what day of the week it was. Um, anyway, I would just go through those contracts and just nope, 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 nope. Didn't you see honorarium? You're only getting $10,000. You'll be lucky if you have an RV back behind the stage to sit in, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, I guess I say that because one of the first contracts that I was offered, actually, it was offered on the Bird Book, which I ultimately ended up publishing myself. A nice regional press very seriously considered it. Last minute, didn't take it because I think I blew the Zoom meeting and said, it doesn't bother you that I don't have an MFA? And then the whole thing fell apart. I don't know what was wrong with me. Kind of like I'm probably saying wrong things now. But anyway,
Doing fine. You're doing fine, man. Really. I appreciate it.
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I was offered a contract on that book, and it was by a beginner press. And some of these presses, they might only publish 5 books a year. Some of them publish 30, like the one that just did the Mustang book.
Yeah.
But you want to be very careful what's in those contracts, because some of these people, they start what they think is going to be a little publishing company, and they have big egos, and they want to control everything and whatever. And and I think the problem I had with that one is it had a morality clause in it, that they could have possession of my book if I did something. They didn't specify what, but they thought was not good, was wrong. It's like, what? You're going to have to give me a list, and it better be, it better not include these things.
Wow.
But I mean, there's all kinds you got to be really careful. But fortunately, there are some organizations like the Authors Guild and a few others that, they'll give you some ideas on, they'll tell you, one, if a publisher is known to be a scammer. They'll tell you, what to look for in contracts and things like that. So self-education, I'm sure there's workshops on this. I'm sure there's conferences, but I never made it to any of them. I had to do it the hard way. Like I
I
said, the
gotcha.
school of hard knocks, just like a test dummy, you know.
No, I appreciate it because that's great advice for a lot of authors who are out there. We have a ton of aspiring authors, out there. So I feel like I'm short circuiting you though, because I'm taking all this advice from you right now, and it's like that's supposed to be my last question, man. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I'm just afraid you're going to be out of. I'm sure you have more left in the tank, so
I have plenty to say to
I'm not
you.
going to worry about that.
You're not done with me yet.
No, man. I mean, I can sit here and talk to you forever. As we start to bring this interview back down to a close, how can they reach you? I still have another question or two for you, but how can they reach you? I want to make sure I include this and find your books.
Yeah, okay. Well, they can find the book. One way to find the book and contact me is through the publisher,
Okay.
which is Unsolicited Press. Um, People can find me through my website, which is, it's going to be weird, but it's Tim Bryant's armadilloisland.com. Um, they can find me through there. I'm on Facebook, and I can't remember. I think it's author Tim Bryant or Tim Bryant author. And that's on social media. That's where I am. I went on some of the other spots, wasted a lot of time, in my opinion, on Twitter and Substack and, whatever. Substack is great for people who have a lot of time to write. Just, I don't know what they're going to do with that. But if I'm going to sit down and work on something, it needs to be something that, I don't know, it's going to have to be a book, it's going to have to be a novel or something. But Instagram, I didn't really get too far with it. It just wasn't me. I just didn't feel it. But those places are easy ways to find me. You can also just Google me, Tim Bryant in Jonesville, South Carolina. Not a big place. You can roll into the little hardware store that's right next to the coin-op washing machine or washing bay or whatever, and say, "Do you know Tim Bryant?" And I go, "Yeah, he's right down there around the corner and off in that house that's like a beach house and cow pasture. There's only
Yeah.
one."
Over on Armadillo Island, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And the book is available online all over the place. I mean, it's on Amazon, of course. It's on Barnes and Noble. Walmart has it online. Just a whole bunch of places. And we are working to get it into the bookstores. Now, some of the bookstores, especially on the coast that we're kind of focused on right now because it's set down there, they're offering it like a lot of independent bookstores are doing, where they're offering it if they don't have it on their shelves yet, they'll buy it online for you through their website and then ship it to you, which is kind
Yeah.
of, I don't know. I guess that's good for, people who are in the store and want to ask for it and they don't have it. But I don't know if that's makes much difference to people who just want to go to Amazon and not go to, wherever. So
You never know, man. Some people
yeah,
still like that brick and mortar thing, but yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So it's
So
everywhere. Yeah.
good. Gotcha. We'll make sure we have that stuff, especially the website. Will be in our show notes, so no one's going to have to remember that necessarily. They'll be able to just click the link and go right to your website,
All
and
right. Well, I
they'll
appreciate that.
find Armadillo Island there. It'll be all
Yeah.
worked out.
Tim Bryant's armadillo island.
Tim Bryant's armadillo. I checked out your website, so I saw that, and I was like, "What is this
Yeah,
armadillo?" All
what
right,
is that?
all right. In the interest of time, because I'm looking at the clock now, going, "Wow, we've been talking."
Yeah,
So I'm gonna shut us down with just one more question here, and
sure.
I know you have, like I said, something left in the tank. You've given a ton of advice to people, and I love that, and been very open with your story. So thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Thank you for letting me.
It's awesome, man. The last question that I always ask, and that is, again, we have a lot of aspiring authors who are listening to this, but you are a multiple published author. So congratulations on that, obviously. What is your best piece of advice? Your best advice? I mean, like, dig deep now. Best advice for somebody, right? Who is not quite where you are yet.
There's so much in addition to it, what I've talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, write for the joy of writing, that sort of thing. Do get connected with other writers. Don't be a hermit like I have been. That's a big mistake. Um, don't, another big mistake that people make is they feel that they have to have an agent. And
Mm,
I don't know. Now, maybe an agent will get you into the big five or whatever, and that's great. If you're ready for it, if your story is so phenomenal, you can push through all the clutter, that the agents get, all the queries they get. Um, but everybody, that not that, most of the people I know who have tried to get an agent, if they didn't find it completely frustrating, then if they did get an agent, they spent a lot of time revising their story to somebody else's interest, only to have that person later just say, I can't think we can do this, like the contract runs out, or, agents who quit, like it's their first job at an agency and they thought they'd like it, whatever. But, how many thumbprints do you really want on your work? And now I can see that maybe for some of the more popular genres, like mystery and thrillers and romantic comedies and stuff, because it's very formulaic. And, it's an agent or even a publisher will try to make sure that you fit those templates. But writing literary fiction, I don't want anybody. That's one reason I write it. I mean, I want to say through my writing what I want to say. And I did have a British company. They were very from one of the cultural issues that is in that book. They were very upset by it, and they wanted me to change it. And in my feeling is that going back to being a caveman and writing, painting on the wall what I see, it was something that I see, and I don't want to, I don't want to unsee, I don't want to lie to people as far as what my experience or observation was.
yeah.
And so, make sure you're going someplace where you can, to the extent that you want to or need to, with your work, kind of writing you do, retain, your integrity in it. I don't know.
Great, great advice. I knew you had more left in the tank. All right, there we
Yeah,
go.
I hope I haven't run out. I might need to talk to somebody at a bar or something, about what I do, and I'll say I just left it on the podcast. I have nothing
That's right.
left.
I left it all on the field right there. It's all over.
It's all in the field. I
Oh,
like
there
that.
it is, man. I love it. All right, folks. Author Tim Bryant, The Stained Glass Mustang. Go check it out. Tim, thank you, man, for coming on. Just for being yourself, sharing your story, encouraging everybody out there, and for such great advice. You've been an amazing guest, and I've loved every minute of this. Thanks for coming on the show.
I have absolutely loved it too. I really
Thank you.
have.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
thank you
All
very
right, man.
much.
All right, folks, that's been another fantastic episode of the Right Path podcast, where truth still matters and words still have power. Folks, we've said it before, we'll say it again. This is the place for authors who know that every single page is a step forward towards finding your right path. Until next time.